The bad news just keeps on piling. The world's largest social media company has revealed it's identified a political influence campaign aimed at potentially disrupting the midterm elections in November. Facebook says it's removed 32 pages and fake accounts that had engaged in activity around divisive issues. The company says it doesn't have enough technical evidence to know which state is behind the campaign, but the tools and techniques are similar to those used by the Internet Research Agency, a group linked to the Kremlin.
Removing bad actors from its social media platforms. Facebook Inc. says it has taken down 32 pages from Facebook and Instagram. This for being involved in coordinated, inauthentic behavior.
This kind of behavior is not allowed on Facebook because we don't want people or organizations creating networks of accounts to mislead others about who they are or what they're doing.
This is the kind of content that appeared on the accounts, one of which had close to 300,000 followers.
We know that it's not just about hacking into electoral systems and state registration systems. It's also about sowing divisions within the country among politicians and among average citizens. So I think it's not surprising. We should have been expecting this, and that's why we need to work together to address it.
Though Facebook can't confirm who is behind this coordinated campaign, it has found some links between these examples and the 2016 campaign by a Russian agency to influence the US presidential election. Some Congress members fear Russia is using the same playbook from 2 years ago to meddle in the upcoming November midterm vote.
If I were the president, I would get behind an effort, bipartisan effort in Congress to send a message to Russia that the more you do, the more we're going to do. The only thing Putin understands is strength, and we're going to look weak in the eyes of Putin if we don't up our game.
The tech giant says it's an arms race as it tries to counter the techniques used by malicious actors. An estimated 126 million Americans saw Russia-backed content on Facebook during and after the 2016 election.
Now, the latest revelation from Facebook is the latest of a long list. The company's executives have come under pressure for taking too long to acknowledge the extent of the Russian operation to influence the 2016 U.S. election. Data misuse linked to the Cambridge Analytica scandal has also tainted Facebook. Joining me on the France 24 debate this evening, Fabrice Epelboin, a lecturer at Sciences Po, who specializes in information warfare and cybersecurity. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on France 24. As well as Brett Bren, president of the Global Situation Room. He was also director of global engagement under the Obama administration, and he joins us from Dublin. Good evening to you. Now, I want to start with you, Fabrice. How worrying are these latest revelations from Facebook?
Well, to people who know all this, not that worryful. We know that some states have been interfering with other states' public opinion for quite a long time right now. Of course, the Brexit and Donald Trump's election were the cornerstone of this story, because this was so obvious that nobody could deny anymore that something was going on Facebook. So the fact that Facebook is starting to do something about it is quite some good news, but they are far, very far from seeing the big picture, what's at stake right now, not only in the United States, but also in France as we speak.
Now, Brett, I want to bring you in because the previous administration, the Obama administration, knew about Russian attempts to influence the election before the elections in November 2016. But why wasn't anything done in time?
Well, there's a series of reasons. And in fact, we knew back in 2014 that Russia was developing these capabilities. They were using them in Ukraine. They used them in other parts of Europe. I was one of the people at the White House warning that this was something that we had to take more seriously. But at the same time, we were facing a number of challenges around the world. Russia had troops in eastern Ukraine, in Donetsk and Luhansk. We were facing of ISIS, as well as a number of other challenges. And quite frankly, soft power was not seen in the same vein as hard power threats.
Okay, now I want to bring you in, Fabrice, because last week Facebook announced it would be spending more money to fix security issues at the company. As a result, it lost $120 billion in its market value just last week. Is it too little too late for the company to try and fix itself?
Yeah, it's definitely too little too late, and there's nothing really to be fixed. Facebook is deeply disturbing the way civil society works in many different countries and many different cultures. For example, Facebook is bringing to lots of different countries free speech, as in the First Amendment. There's nothing like free speech in our constitution in France, and it is deeply changing the way our society in France works. And we're not a dictatorship. So you can imagine what happened, for example, in Tunisia, who was a dictatorship, when Facebook introduced free speech. This is the kind of disruption that Facebook brings to the world. And it took quite some time for the United States to realize that they were going to be affected by this same disruption, and that Facebook will be leveraged by foreign nations, not only Russia, to change the United States public opinion. And this is, once again, happening all over the place. It is, once again, happening in France as we speak.
Brett, I want to bring you in because now we have the midterm elections, which will take place in just 3 months' time. We are in August now. Is this enough time for Facebook to get in front of this latest political influence campaign?
I think we need more than Facebook. We need all of the social media technology companies, because what happens is Russia, other adversaries are going to exploit whatever gap exists between one company and another, one country and another. There needs to be a significant effort on the part of these companies, but also on the part of government. We still haven't seen an effort, whether it's in the United States or quite frankly here in Europe, to take this threat more seriously. I think the efforts by some governments have been largely symbolic and far too small to deal with the scale of the threat. I mean, if you think about it, we have seen more damage wrought by information weapons in the last several years than by the potential of weapons used against our institutions, our confidence in those institutions. I think it's something that needs a lot more time and resources.
When Brett was talking, you said it wasn't just Russia.
It wasn't just Russia. Many countries are doing this. For example, there was an investigation at the New York Times and in Bloomberg something like 3 weeks ago, implying Israel doing precisely this. It's a strategy on social media and a psychological operation named Poison the Well. And what happened during Trump's election and maybe Brexit was not the only, there wasn't only Russia involved in this. Many countries are involved. Many countries are meddling with other countries using social media. The United States is using this same tactic. For example, there's a quite famous operation named Cyber Dawn that was using social media to impact Libyan public opinion in 2010. That was 8 years ago. In 2012, the South Korea presidential election got meddled by the local secret service in order to impact public opinion using social media. So this has been happening for the past decade. Countries and governments are awakening to this problem, but the problem is here since at least 10 years.
Brett, in the United States at this time, we have an administration under Donald Trump who doesn't really, he flips back and forth on whether Russia meddled in the election in 2016. Does that sort of rhetoric hurt?
It's a lack of leadership. We simply don't have enough government in the direction that's needed to address. And there is no significant action that can take place. You can have offices, individuals.
I apologize for those technical issues we're having with Brett's connection. Okay, Facebook owns Instagram. It owns WhatsApp. WhatsApp has been accused of spreading fake news in India. Has this company simply gotten too big for its boots?
This company has coded a fundamental principle coming from the American society, once again, like free speech or the way the American society is made, the melting pot. different communities living side by side. And when you take those core values that are coded inside Facebook and put them in another society, they will be some serious disruption. The disruption you were talking about concerning WhatsApp in India is about disrupting the way communities work together in India. The disruption we're seeing right now in France, and we've been witnessing for the past 5 years at least, is free speech coming in a country where it doesn't really exist. And all society are affected by Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All those society are made on communication and been built on communication for centuries. And Facebook is deeply, deeply disturbing all those
I mean, it seems that they're trying to do the best they can. They've hired people even with government clearances. Now you're nodding your head when I'm asking this question.
They're only looking at one thing, making as much money as they can. That's the way corporations are supposed to work. So they're doing their job as a corporation. The problem is, if you want to fuel online conversation, which is basically the way Facebook takes your time away and monetize it by using advertisement. If you want to fuel conversation, the best fuel today in today's world is hate and anger. So of course, it's going to be very profitable for people like Donald Trump and not very profitable for people like Barack Obama, for example.
We're going to have to leave it there. That's it for this edition of The Debate. I'd like to thank my guest, Fabrice Epelborn. Thank you very much for joining us, as well as Brett Brunn. And thank you very much for watching.